Communication is becoming increasingly processed electronically. We have not only multiple messenger services, such as MSN, Yahoo, AOL, but blogs, video blogs, and networking sites such as Facebook and MySpace. Gone are the days of snail mail pen pal. The internet has become a one-stop spot for socialization. However, these electronic modes of communication are not only depersonalizing, but they are furthering distance between those subjected by it. Take me as an example. I'm communicating to you via webcam, but it is not nearly the same were I presenting in person. There is absolutely no spontaneity, as I can always delete and re-record segments of this video that I do not like. This is take 2. Now, it is also coordinated so that it fulfills a specific amount of time. In this way, it is a very mechanical process, whereas delivering this presentation in person creates a reflexive response, as I may stammer due to nervousness, or be more boisterous and animated due to the perception that the class is entertained by the presentation. When we think of the universal subject, am I really it? That is to say, the image presented before you, does that really contain the essence of the universal subject? In fact, e-communication has been harnessed in some instances to bring the universal subject to a wider audience.
Tonight we're asking who's going to win in Canada's election and in the U.S. presidential election. Basically, we're asking you to fill in the blanks for us and tell us what you think it will all mean for us as Canadians. We've got another viewer connected via webcam, Jamie from St. John's, Newfoundland. Jamie, how are you tonight?
In this clip, I am presented similar in fashion as I am to you now, albeit with greater spontaneity. So here I am presented as just any other typical middle-class Canadian with political concerns. Why I would argue that the image presented is not of the universal subject is because the process is so very mechanized. Before I went on the air with CBC, my ideas had to be screened and approved by producers to meet their standards of approval. Marx would no doubt argue that this is a form of class alienation, as my opinion and voice are constrained by those that have control over the media. None of the viewers actually know what my background is. Perhaps I am the son of a sultan and have never faced hardships in my life. However, there is the idea that I am just the typical CBC viewer. I would call it more of a theatrical production of the universal subject, as the entire process is highly mechanized to appear as such. It's interesting to note that I keep referring to myself as a subject, but that can't be. Otherwise there would be 2 Jamie brothers in the world, and one is more than enough. Now, Jamie is clearly in the class sitting down amongst yourselves. What this is, or rather, what I am, is a product which has taken on the role of the subject. I've been given a look, a script, I am reading from a script after all, and even a specific audience, which transforms all of that into the image of a subject. But I am supposed to represent Jamie. But unless you know Jamie beyond this account, you would have no idea whether or not this is representative of him. In this way, Jamie is the subjectified object, in that your idea of what he is bound by the image represented in me. The fixation is on me and not him. He is outside of this communication and acts only as a gear in shaping this communication. People in turn often expect one to be representative of the image communicated online. I did have a episode of King of the Hill downloaded and ready to use clips from, but it seems to have disappeared from my computer because I think it was saved to my temporary internet files, which is emptied every time I reboot, which I did. To sort of illustrate it slightly, King of the Hill, or sorry, rather Hank from King of the Hill, he loses a client based on the client MySpacing with one of his competitors. The client feels a connection with the competitor based on things they discuss, such as music. And he feels this is more real, this is a closer connection than what he would have had with Hank. Obviously, this is a reifying experience, in which the emphasis is on the online image and not on the person behind the computer. A good example would be a court case in progress in which an Alberta man has been charged with murder and attempted murder. Allegedly, He pretended to be a woman and would have online romances with men until he was able to lure them to a garage and kill them. The man he allegedly murdered actually sent a message to his friends before he disappeared, claiming that he was going to be on a long vacation with a woman he met online. I mean, who goes and has a long vacation with some person they've never met? I mean, it's like telling a child to go jump in a car with a stranger. But this only furthers the notion that electronic communication can be very ingenuine. And here I would be inserting another King of the Hill clip in which Hank has a spat with one of his coworkers, in which I believe he calls her an idiot online, and she backs up that I'm sure my thousands or whatever of MySpace friends really think I'm an idiot. And then Hank makes a point of stating that, well, I'd like to see these friends. And of course, this only furthers the notion that these aren't these aren't in-depth relationships. They only exist online. Uh, People often have hundreds of Facebook or MySpace friends, but I sincerely question how genuine and in-depth their relations to one another actually are. The ease and availability of electronic communication is attractive to a lot of people. However, it doesn't present the self, but instead creates an alternative image which focus is placed upon. Instead of this technology transcending space to bring us closer together, we lose focus on the individual and become wrapped up in an artificial reality. The mechanical processes of the communication lack intrinsic human quality, and we become further distant through this lack of real human connection.